Coming in at number 10, Lana Del Ray. The beginning of the end for Lana Del Ray started with a letter that was a question for the culture. At the start of the letter she posted, Lana said, "Now that Doja Cat, Ariana, Camila, Cardi B, Kalani, and Nicki Minaj and Beyonce have had number ones with songs about being sexy, wearing no clothes, f***ing, cheating, etc., can I please go back to singing about being embodied, feeling beautiful by being in love even if the relationship is not perfect, or dancing for money, or whatever I want, without being crucified or saying that I'm glamorizing abuse." This letter came after she was criticized for being anti-feminist and glamorizing abuse in her most recent album. However, this letter led to her being cancelled by the general public on Twitter because the majority of the artists that she mentioned were of color, which is why we saw the very punny hashtag of Lana Del Racist start to trend on Twitter. She did clarify later on that this post was not meant to be racist and that she loves all of those artists, but Twitter just wasn't having any of it. And with that out of the way, coming in at number 9, Jenna Marbles. Jenna has been on YouTube for a very long time, and after multiple videos of hers blew up, she really began garnering millions of subscribers, 20 million to be more precise. Although in a video titled A Message, Jenna addressed the controversy of her older content. She apologized for the video that she made impersonating Nicki Minaj in 2011 where she donned blackface and went on to say,
"Not my intention to do blackface. I do want to tell you how unbelievably sorry I am if I ever offended you by posting this video."
In response to the outcry on the internet to have her cancelled, Jenna archived the old videos and announced that she would be stepping away from the channel. She said that she doesn't know if it's forever, but she wants to make sure that the things she puts out in the world aren't hurting anyone. Coming in at number 8, Tory Lanez. Canadian rapper Tory Lanez, whose real name is Daystar Peterson, really gained mass popularity throughout this pandemic by constantly doing Instagram live sessions. His show was called Quarantine Radio and featured a ton of content that really broke the community guidelines of Instagram. Regardless, his fans still crowned him the Quarantine King, and with that clout around his name now, we saw Tory hanging around the likes of Kylie Jenner and Megan Thee Stallion. Which brings us to what Tory was being exposed and ultimately cancelled for. Megan was in a car with Tory Lanez and a member of his security team driving through an LA neighborhood. Apparently an argument took place that resulted in Megan deciding that she was going to get out of the car and walk to where she was staying. However, before she could do so, Tory had allegedly shot her in the foot.
Since y'all so worried about it, yes, this Tory shot me. You shot me.
Either way, Meg calling Tory out led to many of his fans turning on him, and thus another celebrity was cancelled. Coming in at number 7, RuPaul. Fans of RuPaul's Drag Race were appalled after its namesake began a controversy that suggested he was more behind the times than they initially believed. The show was created to be a forefront to celebrate the LGBTQ community, but RuPaul's comments put all that progress into reverse. During an interview he did with The Guardian, writer Decca Aikenwood was questioning RuPaul about the contradiction between his playful sensibility and the militant stance he has on the transgender movement. The writer noted that RuPaul seemed to pick his next words very carefully, but still said that he probably wouldn't have admitted a transgender woman like Peppermint if she had already started gender-affirming surgery. He went on to say, "You can identify as a woman and say you're transitioning, but it changes once you start changing your body. It takes on a different thing. It changes the whole concept of what we're doing." And because of that, he was rightfully cancelled. Coming in at number 6, Shane Dawson. After what happened to George Floyd, America went into civil unrest, and the people demanded answers from law enforcement. Along with that, however, comes the necessary task of curating our culture to get rid of the problematic people who only add fuel to the fire. Get rid of sounds awful, but what I mean is hold them responsible so that we can admit our own mistakes and move forwards as a society. The weirdest part about Shane Dawson doing blackface is that he had done it on more than one occasion, and done so in a time where we thought that people would be more tolerant and progressive. Even weirder is that when he apologized for taking his sketches too far with blackface, a bunch of his white fans were like, "Oh, we forgive you. I'm sorry to say this, but that apology wasn't meant for you." It's meant for the people that he was mocking, and I don't think letting this one slide was a wise idea. There have been many red flags with Shane Dawson, but this one should have and will be the final straw. Coming in at number 5, Sherry Pie. For RuPaul's Drag Race Season 12, they were burdened by a very strong accusation against one of their performers. Contestant Sherry Pie was axed from the show after he allegedly tried to groom and catfish 5 men. He had pretended to be a casting director and asked each of the men to send in videos of them doing very degrading things. Although upon the victims doing further research into this supposed casting director, they discovered that it was all fake. The issue with taking Joey, who plays Sherry Pie, off the show though, was that Sherry had won most of the competitions, so he couldn't just be easily edited out. Sherry Pie has apologized and admitted that his behavior was terribly embarrassing. Regardless, he was disqualified from the show, and the producers did their very best to remove most of his images, giving him very minimal screen time. Coming in at number 4, Jessica Mulroney. CTV announced that they would be removing Jessica's reality show called I Do Redo because her recent conduct conflicted with the broadcaster's commitment to diversity and equality. Influencer Sasha Exter accused Mulroney of trying to threaten her livelihood. Sasha made a post about the importance of speaking out against racism, and it was oddly met with criticism from Jessica. Exter said that she was not calling Jessica racist, but said that she is very very well aware of her wealth and power, along with the privilege that she is afforded due to her skin color. Apparently, Jessica took offense to Sasha simply asking her audience to support speaking out against racism. All of those comments have since been deleted, but what will stay up forever is this letter from CTV that said, "Because recent conduct by one of our show hosts, Jessica Mulrooney, conflicts with our commitment to diversity and equality, CTV has removed I Do Redo from all Bell Media channels and platforms effective immediately." Coming in at number 3, Chris D'Elia. D'Elia was cancelled and had been accused of grooming and attempting to solicit nude photographs from underage girls. A woman named Simone tweeted out a screenshot of her alleged interactions with Chris, which began a thread of other women sharing their interactions with him as well. The stories were all pretty horrific, considering that they were all allegedly underage at the time that Chris had sent these messages to them. However, in response to having his name dragged through the mud online, Chris told TMZ, "I know I have said and done things that might have offended people during my career, but I have never knowingly pursued any underage women at any point." Chris then goes on to say, "All of my relationships have been both legal and consensual, and I have never met or exchanged any inappropriate photos with the people who have tweeted about me." And regardless, he was out. In at number 2, Ellen DeGeneres. When Kevin Porter tweeted this out, "Right now we all need a little kindness, you know, like Ellen DeGeneres always talks about. She's also notoriously one of the meanest people alive. Respond to this with the most insane stories you've all heard about Ellen being mean, and I'll match everyone with $2 to the LA Food Bank." And the response was overwhelming. However, for this point, let's focus in on the ones about the bizarre rules for her staff, because that alone was enough to get her cancelled. Benjamin Simon said, "A, she has a sensitive nose, so everyone must chew gum from a bowl outside her office before talking to her, and if she thinks you smell that day, you have to go home and shower." I mean, you have to go home and shower? Who does that? What a weird power move. You smell, so stop working for me, go home, shower, and then come back and stay late. Okay. Chelsea Babcock also said, "When I was working on At Midnight, our stage manager told us to never work for Ellen. He told us she has signs up in her office that say, 'Do not look the host in the eye.' I'm sorry, but that's far from normal. Don't look her in the eye? That's a really bizarre rule to have." Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp has been tangled up in his legal battle with Amber Heard for quite some time now. The initial article from the Sun newspaper that referred to Depp as a wife beater severely damaged the actor's reputation, and as a result, we saw him being unceremoniously pulled from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise. In light of the article, author J.K. Rowling defended Depp and his inclusion with her series called Fantastic Beasts. However, following the loss of his high-profile libel case against UK newspaper The Sun, Depp was forced out of Fantastic Beasts by Warner Brothers. So despite this legal battle going on for years, it was 2020 that Johnny Depp truly began to lose all of his opportunities.
At number 10, Lori Loughlin. 2020 was not a good year for actress Lori Loughlin. Back in March 2019, Lori, her husband Massimo, and 49 other people were charged in a college admissions bribery scandal. After the case went to court and Lori and her husband were found guilty, they were sentenced to serve jail time. Lori serving 2 months and Massimo 5 months. Lori began her prison sentence in October 2020 and was finally released in late December. Having gone through this whole scandal, Lori lost a lot, and not only has this affected her life, but her family's lives as well. As a result of the scandal, Lori was fired from the Netflix show Fuller House, a spin-off of the original Full House sitcom, and there have been reports that she's been blacklisted from Hollywood. Whether that's really true remains unknown, but the bottom line here is that her career is tarnished and so is her credibility. But her actions made other people lose things too. Her daughter Olivia Jade, who's an influencer, has lost out on brand partnerships, and her public image has also been tarnished because of her parents' scandal. If you guys are enjoying the video so far, please do consider leaving a like, as this really does help us out a lot. And after you like this video, head on over to the Viper Girl channel and check out our content, and maybe subscribe while you're at it. At number 9, Gabi Demartino. Gabi Demartino is a YouTuber who recently turned to the OnlyFans platform. She was having a decent amount of success, that is until she lost her entire platform. OnlyFans suspended Gabi's account after she sold a video of herself as a toddler flashing the camera, and this incited a lot of concerns legally and ethically, as people accused the influencer of scamming fans and tricking them into unknowingly possessing inappropriate content of a minor. Gabi was selling the video on her OnlyFans page for $3, and after fans realized what she was posting, fans began tipping off media outlets, ultimately leading to the suspension of her OnlyFans account. This was part of Gabi's income, so as a result, she lost a lot on that front since her account is no longer active, but she also lost a lot in terms of credibility because she was allegedly scamming her followers into soliciting this inappropriate content without them knowing. She faced a lot of backlash, especially from those who were advocates against this kind of content, and so her image is very much tarnished after last year's scandal. At number 8, Jeffree Star. In 2020, Jeffree Star faced cancellations a lot. First, it started when he released a new palette called the Cremated Palette because fans believed that this new collection was released at the wrong time. Since the palette contained death-related imagery and the collection was released around the first wave of the COVID-19 pandemic, he faced backlash. Then later in the summer, Jeffree was canceled again, this time for his past racist actions and remarks, as the height of the Black Lives Matter movement saw celebrities and influencers being looked at under a microscope, especially into their past, to uncover and take accountability for their actions. Well, as a result of this cancellation, the makeup company Morphe decided to cut ties with Jeffree and his brand in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement, as well as to distance themselves from this drama. As a result, Jeffree lost a large income as his products would no longer be sold in Morphe stores or online, and he lost a lot of credibility in the makeup world since he was dropped by such a large company. At number 7, Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne got into some legal trouble in 2020 after he was caught in possession of a firearm. Lil Wayne was arrested and charged with possessing a firearm and ammunition by a convicted felon after officials conducted a search of the rapper's private jet. Since he'd been convicted and sent to prison on gun charges in the past, he was no longer eligible to own a firearm legally, and so this new charge can land him in prison for up to 10 years. The rapper pleaded guilty to the charges in 2020 and will be sentenced in January 2021. This arrest is unfortunately the potential start of Lil Wayne losing everything, since he could potentially end up in prison for a decade, and this could definitely take a toll on his career and his life outside of prison. At number 6, Lea Michele. Actress Lea Michele was cancelled in 2020 after reports and accusations came out about her disrespect of others that she's worked with in the past. This all started at the height of the Black Lives Matter movement after she released a statement about the injustices that the Black community faces, and one of her former Glee stars replied, accusing her of racial microaggressions while they worked together in the past. This ultimately sparked a chain reaction of other people coming forward to talk about their horror stories while working with the actress. Some people came forward with stories about how she would disrespect and talk down to people on set, and others spoke out about her behavior and how she would delay production, but snap at others who held her up, and some reported encounters with the actress where she would refuse to talk to anyone face to face and would force them to speak with her assistant instead. Because of all the negative attention Lea was getting, this ultimately led the brand HelloFresh to end their partnership with the actress and release a statement denouncing her actions. Lea lost credibility, respect, and work because of this scandal. At number 5, Mary-Kate Olsen. Mary-Kate Olsen was in the news this year because she was going through a very messy divorce. The former child star applied multiple times for emergency divorce over the course of the stay-at-home orders in New York and was denied multiple times. Mary-Kate said that she was in a hurry to end her marriage over fears of losing her personal belongings because her husband Pierre-Olivier Sarkozy was forcing her to move out of their house. Olsen, who was already stressed about her failing marriage, was forced to find new living arrangements in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic during its first wave in the spring of last year, and she was continuously denied petitions of divorce as a result. Finally, in 2021, she reached a settlement on her proceedings and things are ending, but at the beginning of this, she was about to lose it all. At number 4, the Sussexes. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, made headlines last year as they announced that they would be stepping down from their royal duties and leaving the royal family. The event the media dubbed Megxit saw the couple and their young son move out of the UK and settle down in Montecito, California. Now the media reports that the Sussexes have lost nearly everything that made them royal. Since stepping down as senior members of the royal family, they would no longer be able to travel around the world on the Queen's behalf. They would no longer receive funds from the sovereign grant. They now have to repay the money it costs to renovate their home in the UK. They no longer have an official office at Buckingham Palace. They can't receive security funded by the Canadian government, and they no longer hold protection from the paparazzi. Everything that made them royals is essentially gone, and this year they may officially lose their royal titles as well. At number 3, Stassi Schroeder. The Vanderpump Rules star Stassi Schroeder was fired from the reality program after reports of racist behavior on set. Stassi, as well as 3 other cast members, were let go from the show after they falsely called the cops on one of the only Black castmates and for making racist remarks. As a result of the scandal, Stassi was kicked off the show and even had her podcast removed from streaming platforms, leaving her with nothing to fall back on. Stassi said that she felt that she's lost everything after this scandal. Along with losing her podcast, she was also dropped by her agency and publicist, and her wine created with fellow Vanderpump Rules alum Kristen Dout was also taken off shelves. Stassi lost everything and was left with a tarnished image and bad reputation in the media, and so now in 2021, she's making steps to rebuilding her image. At number 2, Hartley Sawyer. In June 2020, Hartley Sawyer's past was dug up on Twitter, and it was ugly to say the least. Horrible, misogynistic, racist, and violent tweets were found on his Twitter account as far back as 2012, and as a result, he faced cancellations. Some of the horrible things Hartley said online include saying things like, quote, "Jingle bells, Batman smells, women shouldn't vote," and "If I had a wife, I "I would beat the hell out of her tonight." Hartley's tweets also included some violent and graphic messages, but those are far too much for YouTube to handle. Anyways, because of this scandal, Hartley was fired from his role as the elongated man on the CW show The Flash, and he's pretty much lost everything. Since this story broke, Hartley has been MIA from social media and Hollywood as a whole. And finally, at number 1, Kanye West. 2020 saw the rise and fall of Kanye West's political career. In the summer of 2020, Kanye announced that he was running for president and even held a rally that ultimately didn't end well, as he ended up crying on stage as he talked about everything from religion to slavery and abortion. Kanye was also in the news for going on long Twitter rants after getting very heated about his beliefs, as well as family drama between his wife and his mother-in-law Kris Jenner. Ultimately, he ended up losing everything, and by everything, I mean the election. Kanye racked up about 60,000 votes, but clearly that wasn't enough for him to win the election. Unfortunately for Kanye, he's on a losing streak, as news broke in early January that his marriage is about to be over and that he and his wife are looking to separate. Not only has Kanye lost everything in 2020, but he also seems as though he may lose even more this year as well. Kicking things off at number 10, Nicolas Cage. Nick Cage is a pretty big Hollywood actor, so it's surprising to see that he kind of hit rock bottom at one point. Between the years of 1996 and 2011, he was worth over $130 million. What happened then, you ask? Well, as he began to make more money, he spent more money buying pretty pricey and lavish things. Among the things that he spent his hard-earned cash on included things like luxury cars, 2 islands, a yacht, a jet, several properties around the world, a dinosaur skull, and my personal favorite, a $150,000 pet octopus. Now, unfortunately for Nick, his expenses got the best of him and he filed for bankruptcy. He was forced to sell most of his belongings to cover his debt and was even sued by his money manager. Nick has spent the last few years basically living paycheck to paycheck trying to pay off his remaining debts. In at number 9, Toni Braxton. Much like Nicolas Cage, singer Toni Braxton also lost her fortune. In 1998, Toni filed for bankruptcy, landing her in a pretty depressive episode. Toni blamed her misfortunes on bad business deals, tour expenses, and as well as her personal spending habits, as she was known to purchase designer clothing and accessories. Toni shared her feelings about her bankruptcy publicly and seemed to have bounced back after a few years. But that money didn't last very long, because she filed for bankruptcy a second time in 2010 because she was over $15 million in debt. How does someone spend so much money? $15 million is a lot. This time she blamed her debts on the fact that she owed money to her record label, the IRS, and the state of Georgia for taxes. Since then, she's been left with very little money to her name. I sincerely hope that if she regains her fortune, that she doesn't blow it all for a third time. At number 8, Wesley Snipes. Another celebrity who lost it all is none other than comedian Wesley Snipes. Wesley was arrested and sentenced to 3 years in prison for tax evasion. Now, this is one of the things I'm most afraid of happening to me. I'm so scared that I'll accidentally forget to pay my taxes and end up in jail. Like, it is so easy to just not pay your taxes one year because you missed the deadline. It's so scary. Anyway, Wesley was found guilty for failing to pay upwards of $15 million in taxes between 1999 and 2001. He tried to appeal his case a few times since his lawyers claimed that Wesley's tax advisors misled him, but he was forced to serve the full 3-year sentence. He went from being at the top to behind bars. In at 7, Lindsay Lohan. Lindsay Lohan was once one of the biggest stars in Hollywood, but she began her slow decline, leading her to hit rock bottom. At the beginning of her career, she was booking movie after movie, and she made quite a name for herself. But slowly over time, she got booked less and less because she held a reputation for poor behavior on set, as well as constantly being late for her shoots. Since she wasn't receiving the same amount of work that she used to, her income started to take a hit, and that combined with her large list of expenses from personal items to bills and legal fees, she racked up a lot of debt that she just couldn't pay off. At the same time, her public image was taking a hit as well. She was in and out of rehab and was facing harsh criticism from the public, so not only was she broke, she was also unable to get a job because of her image. Right now she's doing kind of okay, but her career and financial situation will never be the same again. Coming in at number 6, Johnny Depp. Actor Johnny Depp is another celebrity who's lost it all. Johnny and his misfortunes have been in the media a lot lately. As his divorce with Amber Heard continues to be broadcast around the world, we're finding out more and more about how Johnny lost everything he's built for himself. At the height of his career, he had his fortunes, but they soon began to dwindle as life began to get the best of him. Between lawsuits, fraud charges, taxes, and divorce settlements, Johnny lost millions. Normally, for a celebrity as big as he was, it wouldn't have taken him much to regain the funds that he had lost, but his divorce with Amber Heard is what seemed to have been the nail in his coffin. Amber alleged that Johnny was abusive towards her, and this ruined his reputation in the film industry. No one wanted to be seen supporting an alleged abuser, and his career suffered greatly. He stopped receiving the kind of income that he was used to, and Hollywood wouldn't take him on. Now, since more information about Johnny's divorce has come through, people are beginning to see him as the good guy again, but he might still have a ways to go. Halfway through at number 5, Martha Stewart. Martha Stewart had built her empire on cookbooks and home goods, but her kingdom came crashing down in 2004 when she was sentenced to jail time after being charged with obstruction of justice and conspiracy. Martha's image was shattered after she was caught using insider information to pull her stocks from a failing company in the stock market. She went from being perfect and neighborly to a hardened criminal in the blink of an eye. No, I'm just kidding, it's not that dramatic, but she did suffer quite a bit. She had to pay a fine for her crimes and was forced to step down as CEO of her company for 5 years. It took a while for Martha to bounce back from her tarnished image, but many people still see her as the lady who went to jail. At number 4, Britney Spears. Britney has been in the news a lot lately regarding her guardianship and assets. Basically, for the last decade or so, her father James has been in charge of almost everything Britney can or cannot do, have, or say. This comes from back in her meltdown days when Britney really wasn't doing too great. She was suffering a lot in her personal life and in the media, and her career came crashing down around her as a result. Despite making a lot of money and gaining a lot of fame in her early days of her music career, it all now falls into her dad to take care of. Now, even though Britney wants her life back, she's unable to legally take responsibility for her assets, so she's pretty much lost everything she's worked for. Under the Free Britney movement, fans are calling for conservatorship to be taken away from her dad so that Britney can be free to live her life the way she wants. But for the time being, she has nothing of her own. In at 3, Charlie Sheen. Actor Charlie Sheen is one of the many Hollywood stars who have hit rock bottom. He was once worth $150 million, but now he's down to just $10 million, and he's pretty much broke. Sheen left his glory days behind after being caught up with illegal activities. His substance abuse and promiscuity cost him his job on the sitcom 2.5 Men, which used to bring him in $1.8 million an episode. After being let go from the show, Charlie was never able to pick his career back up again. His expenses continued to grow though, from paying spousal support to 2 ex-wives, paying child support for his kids, paying for company, and paying off the people who knew about his HIV status. Charlie racked up some pretty hefty debts to the point where he's now behind on his own personal bill payments. He really lost everything in the blink of an eye. At number 2, Amanda Bynes. Much like Lindsay Lohan, former child star Amanda Bynes lost everything she built for herself during her early days in the spotlight. Amanda had a pretty successful career in the early 2000s, but following her fall from grace, she's lost everything. Amanda's mental health was a big factor in her career's decline. She was making headlines in the media during her manic episodes that cost her her reputation, and no one has hired her since. She's gotten the help that she needed and has moved on to other things, but her career in acting is pretty much done for. Amanda has since graduated from college and seems to be doing pretty well for herself, but there's no way that she can return to the big screen. Finally, in at number 1, Robert Downey Jr. Before Robert Downey Jr. took up the mantle as Iron Man, his career had hit rock bottom and he had basically lost every ounce of success. Though he was very popular in his early film career, he watched it all wash away after getting in trouble with illegal substances. Hollywood refused to hire the actor and he lost his credibility. He held some smaller roles here and there, but he was still in the dark. It wasn't until a Hollywood executive decided to take a chance on Robert and give him the role of Iron Man that we saw him make a comeback. Everyone, including Robert, thought his career in film was over until that moment. So he truly lost it all, but he made an amazing comeback, and that's why he is our number 1 spot.
Your comments from the video titled Top 10 Celebrities Who Were Publicly Shamed. Cat Charlie says, if there's a part 2 for celebrities who were publicly shamed, I'm all in. I will let the great managers know. We'll get you a part 2. Beezer says, thanks for throwing in the nefarious. It's one of my favorite words. I know, Beezer, that's why I always throw it in. Every time I type it, I'm like, I hope Beezer likes this one. The fanfic kid says, why are people hating on Harry? If he wants to wear a dress, let him wear a dress. I know, right? Like, it's not like Harry's like, now that I'm wearing a dress, you gotta wear it. He never even said that. Never said that. Totally agree with your comment. Steven Smith says, Kevin Spacey will be publicly shamed too. He's already been publicly shamed, bro. Jane Jones says, the Kathy Griffin thing probably was the worst for her. All the others seem to pick right back up from where they were. Yeah, I think even Kathy Griffin is picking up right from where she left off too, surprisingly, but also not so surprisingly because it is Hollywood and they just seem to forget controversies whenever they feel like it.
Of the top 10 celebrities who went too far, part 2. MLG Gamer says, I heard they used a real bear in The Revenant to attack Leonardo DiCaprio. That is the craziest thing about the role, bar none. 100%. The fact that they got an actual bear, like this man risked his life for an Oscar. Glad that he got it, because if he didn't, like I don't know what he could have done. Like that was the peak of his career. Tiff Cook 2 says, I've been told I'm awkward at getting friends, but damn keeping their hair. Yeah, I don't know why she was keeping the hair. Who knows? I don't think I want to know. It's a little creepy, to be honest. Slim Arcane Z says, I swear Brie is one of my favorite hosts. Thank you so much. It's nice to hear that, especially not having the same quality stuff going on. I'm filming at home, so like I thought, you know, you guys would start hating me, but I guess not. Cool. Rob Sherfy says, since when has Catwoman been considered a hit film? I like it. I think it's a hit film because it is cool to see a sexy black woman in a powerful role because you don't really see that often enough. No tea, no shade, but you know. Vanessa Stegall says, hi Brie, welcome to the top 10 Beyond the Screen crew. Thank you, it's nice to be here. Robbie says, can we cancel 2020? Honestly, I would love to, but I feel like 2020 is so resilient that they would throw the cancellation back in our faces. It's not happening. Sandy South said, sick of Hollywood, they are mostly hypocrites. You're pretty right. I mean, there's some nice celebrities out there, but most of them are kind of crap. Anyway, Wesley was found guilty. Anyway, Wesley was found guilty for failing to pay. Wesley was found guilty. Now, since more information about Johnny's divorce has come through, people are seeing. Since more information about John. Martha's image was shattered after she.